You're listening to the Secure Dad Podcast. Discover ways to protect yourself and your family at home, in public, and online. Welcome, friend. I'm Andy Murphy, the creator of The Secure Dad. This podcast serves to help people become proactive in their safety. The information I share on this podcast is for general information purposes only. My goal is to empower you to make safer decisions for yourself and your family, because our safety is our own responsibility. Today we're talking about how to mitigate risk on the road by putting into practice some situational awareness tips. All of that and more ahead on the Secure Dad Podcast. In 2023, there were more than 1 million reports of identity theft in America. New findings from the FTC say that identity thieves were using real information with either an existing credit card or applying for a new one. How did they get this information? Well, there's a lot of ways, but one way is to buy it. Yes, scammers can buy your personal information from data brokers and use it to impersonate you. And buying private data from these sites is completely legal. DeleteMe searches the internet for your private data that's being sold. Then they delete it. Not just once, they keep looking for it. Go to joindeleteme.com/dad. There you can get 20% off our privacy plan when using the code DAD at checkout. Keep your data out of the hands of scammers and thieves with help from DeleteMe. See why I find DeleteMe essential to my privacy at joindeleteme.com/dad and use promo code DAD to get 20% off today. DeleteMe is a sponsor of the Secure Dad Podcast. Today we're going to talk about something that is crucial for every driver out there, and that is situational awareness. You know that feeling that you have when you're on autopilot behind the wheel where the world just kind of blurs by out the window? Maybe you go through an intersection and think, man, I hope that light was green. I wasn't paying attention. Well, that's not exactly a recipe for safe driving, even though we've all been there. Imagine having a sixth sense about potential problems on the road. Well, that's what situational awareness is all about. By the end of this episode, you're going to be a master of your driving environment, ready to navigate the roads with confidence. So you're probably asking yourself, okay, Andy, what is driving situational awareness? Well, think of it like this. It's being aware of everything happening around you and how that affects your path and your safety. It's not just about the rules of the road, but understanding the whole picture. Are people acting strange? Is the weather about to take a bad turn? What's the vibe of this particular stretch of the road? By reading the environment, you can make safe choices and avoid danger. Normally, when I talk about situational awareness, I am referring to a static environment. Generally, I talk about baselines for restaurants and shopping malls, things like that. While time and how people use an environment change, when driving, the environment is continually changing as we progress through our trip. How we drive and what we encounter on a 2-lane road is very different from, downtown Atlanta. The interstate is different from your street, but you may see all of these environments in the course of your daily commute. The takeaway is that potential hazards and personal safety are going to vary, and things could devolve quickly. While some anomalies like driving behavior and hazards may be common, how they play out will heavily depend on the vibe of your current location. In some driving situations, an anomaly greatly influences how every driver behaves. For example, an ambulance rushing through traffic is going to change how you and those around you drive. The same can be said for a driver speeding away from a police officer. The introduction of a speeding car is going to change how you and your fellow drivers behave and use the road, which is your environment. Now, let's discuss the proper mindset to have when driving. I've often talked about Greg Williams and Brian Marin from Arcadia Cognerati, and one of their big sayings is, give yourself the gift of time and distance. And that is absolutely perfect for driving situational awareness. Time and distance are key to safe driving. The more time we have to sense make and the distance that we have to adjust our car, the better off we're going to be. In the context of driving, this means you need to slow down, focus, and decide the best course of action. This will help you mitigate a potential threat and avoid a dangerous situation. In order to give yourself the best chance to see problems before they start, you cannot be distracted. More and more drivers are preoccupied by smartphones than focusing on the road. No longer do we only have to deal with tired or drunk drivers. Now we have to deal with America's obsession with smart devices, which affects, in my opinion, a greater number of drivers every day. I also think that the most dangerous thing the average person does is get behind the wheel of a car and drive to work. While smartphones can enhance your driving experience, like if you're using Google Maps, we've got to be cognizant of how often we're looking at the screen and how often we're not paying attention to the road. Please do not contribute to the problem. Keep your eyes up and see what's going on around you. So now let's talk about discerning driving behavior. If you've been driving for a while, you've probably noticed that a car that wants to change lanes starts to drift over a little early. Drivers can see the intent of that car change lanes because the driver is already thinking about it, so therefore he's unconsciously starting to move to the left or the right, whichever lane he wants to get into. In the same vein, people that are lost tend to slow down to get a better bearing on their location. They may also speed up and then slow down again, especially when approaching intersections and turns. Knowing that a driver is lost will help you maintain a safe distance and know how to respond to that car. If you've been through 2 intersections with that car that has slowed down greatly to see what the street names are, you can bet that when you get to that 3rd intersection, they're going to slow down again. Being able to discern the intent of a driver will help you know how to act around them. Eventually, this skill is going to become second nature. By keeping an eye on them, you can better understand their behavior and how that may affect your safety. It's also important to know these things about yourself. You may also start to drift over a little early when you want to change lanes. If you're lost, you may also speed up and slow down to try to look at street names to figure out where you are. So just keep that in mind. You may one day be the anomaly. Remember that keeping yourself calm in any driving situation is key to your safety and the safety of those around you. This is a great way to teach your children about safe driving, so when it's their turn to drive, they'll be ahead of the game. Practice situational awareness every time you get behind the wheel. You never know what's going to be on the road ahead. Well, that's all that I have for the Secure Dad podcast for today. Thank you, friend, for listening. Take back your privacy and personal data with help from DeleteMe. Get 20% off a privacy plan when using the code DAD at checkout. There's a link in today's show notes for more. If you'd like for your child to have a smartphone, but not access to the whole internet, consider a TrueMe phone. My family uses one all the time. Click on the link in the show notes and use code TheSecureDad at checkout for $50 off a phone of your choice. If you'd like to know more about the Secure Dad, join me on Instagram and X. My username for both platforms is TheSecureDad. And of course, my site's available to you 24/7 at thesecuredad.com. I'm Andy Murphy, reminding you that our safety is our own responsibility.